Hey, Mr. Wiedemer here for Mr. Wiedemer's History. Welcome to 10.2, Moving Closer to War. You guys will be able to analyze how the United States helped the Allies early on in World War II and assess how the U.S. became involved in World War II. Are you ready? Here we go. Alright, after World War I, the United States became increasingly isolated. We went back into our shell and we isolated ourselves from the world. Okay? And so we are very isolated, we're very neutral when the World War II begins. Okay, we set these Neutrality Acts. The first Neutrality Act in 1935 meant to prevent the nation from being drawn to war. Okay, outlaw making loans to warring countries. We're going to be neutral, we're not going to get involved, we're going to stay out of it. Alright, the Japanese invaded Manchuria, Spanish Civil War. They both challenged Roosevelt's relationship with the isolationists because Roosevelt really wanted to get into war, but he didn't want to, tick off the rest of America or tick off the isolationists that says we can't get forward this again. We don't want to go back. We don't want to do another World War I. And so, but as time went on, it became harder and harder for America to not enter the war. Right, so Roosevelt, FDR, wanted to intervene in foreign affairs but avoid conflict with isolationists. So we're going to do everything but go to war here at first. Okay, we have the quarantine speech. Roosevelt, after the Japanese invaded Manchuria, speech urged the U.S. to work with peace-loving nations to help stop aggressive nations and stop spread of war. So basically, do whatever it takes to help out the Allies, and not, anything to help the Allies against the warring nations of like Japan, Italy, and Germany. All right, and so here's the United States in our little isolation. All right, we're in our little fence. But the storms are coming. The world, this tornado is coming and it's going to tear the fence up, and we're going to be involved in world affairs. We'll get involved in World War II, whether people like it or not. So, because Hitler's aggressive actions, the U.S. decided, let's have a new policy here called cash and carry. Countries at war were allowed to purchase American goods as long as they paid cash and picked up their orders in American ports. So, the Allies, primarily Britain, come over here to America, pay cash, and we'll give them supplies. Alright, so remember, we're neutral, we're not involved in war, but we're going to do everything but actually get into combat. Alright, and so cash and carry. And he urged policy, all aid short of war, trading 50 American warships for 8 British military bases. Okay, and so cash and carry, this trading warships for bases. The U.S. became increasingly drawn into the war as time went on. It's kind of is unavoidable. All right, if we didn't want these aggressive nations like Germany, Japan, Italy to take over Europe and thwart out democracy and eventually threaten the United States and our way of life, we're needing to help out. So all aid short of war is what Roosevelt's proposing here: cash and carry, warships for bases. Alright, election 1940, Roosevelt signed unprecedented third term. Guess what? He won! He's the first ever president, first and only president, to get 3 terms. He actually gets 1 more term before the war is over, in an unprecedented 4 terms. He won mainly because his experience, and we're in the middle of all this crises, and he could be trusted, and change could disrupt, the way things were going. Right, and so the next act, okay, besides cash and carry, we're going to do Lend-Lease Act. Okay, because Britain couldn't really pay the money anymore. They're kind of going broke. And so we're going to basically lend them this thing. Okay, here you go. Regardless, you can't pay us now. You can pay us later. Here, take the weapons. Take the weapons. All right, take the supplies. Whatever you need. Okay, whatever you need. Lend-Lease Act. This is all aid short of war. We're still neutral. Alright, but we're not isolated anymore. We're helping out the Allies because we need them to win. Hey, we don't want to get drawn to war, but we need them to win. So all aid short of war. Alright, Atlantic Charter. Alright, basically says that Roosevelt and Churchill both agree that they don't like Hitler. And they're going to do whatever it takes to take care of Hitler. Alright, first time we're like, okay, we do not like Hitler. We don't like his actions. And so we're going to help defeat him. Right, and so the United States was all but at war. Even the German U.S. attacked U.S. ships. Many still like, we can't get into war. We need to stay in a little shell to get isolated. I don't want to go have another World War I and, these people die and just, we can't do this. And so America was leery, we're afraid. Roosevelt, though, he really wanted to go to war, as noticeable by his Lend-Lease Act, the Atlantic Charter, the warships for bases, the cash and carry, all this stuff. He really wanted to go to war, but a lot of people in the United States did not, and so he all aged short of war. All right, but then this happened. All right, the date that will live in infamy. December 7th, 1941. Alright, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. It was a nice Sunday morning, just like any other Sunday morning. And then, around 8 a.m., here's some the planes. Right? I thought maybe it was U.S. planes, but then looked, they're Japanese planes. And Japanese their main goal was to destroy the aircraft carriers. But lucky for the United States, the aircraft carriers were out at sea that morning, and so they went to Plan B and destroyed Battleship Row. Alright, and so 1941, December 7th, 1941, the date that will live in infamy, as Roosevelt will say the next day. Alright, lasted only a few hours, crippled the U.S. Pacific Fleet. I mean, just destroyed, and it was this right here. This one single event swayed the entire public, right, into wanting to go to war. This one single event, right, and Japanese leader is quoted saying, "I'm afraid we have awoken a sleeping giant." You bet we did. Fee, fi, fo, fum. We're going to come after you. All right, you don't come to our soil and attack us like this. It ain't gonna happen. We're going into war. So we're going to join World War II because we were attacked by Japanese December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Alright, America, like I said, get lucky because our aircraft carriers were out at sea, so we still had those that helped us tremendously in the war in the Pacific. And the aircraft carriers, we needed those, and now we had them in Japan. Didn't get what they wanted, but they still inflicted damage and then woke up us into war. Alright, as you see, here's the layout of Pearl Harbor, Battleship Row. Alright, Arizona, you can still go there today, and you can see it's sunk in Arizona, with the oil still leaking out. It's a really neat place if you ever get a chance to go there. Here's Battleship Row. They just dive bombed in, the kamikaze pilots, and took care of business at Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Ultimately, like I said, helped the U.S. win the war in the Pacific with having these aircraft carriers. America reacted with fear and anger. December 8th, 1941, the U.S. declares war on Japan. We are going to war with the Empire of Japan. December 8th, 1941. 3 days later, Germany and Italy, they're going to declare war on the U.S. Like, the U.S. is now getting involved. Well, we will declare war on the United States. Alright, the U.S. is now officially in World War II as part of the Allies. Bring it on. We have plenty of natural resources, plenty of men. Alright, we're doing this. Alright, World War II, here comes the United States. Alright, quick review. America remains neutral at the beginning of the war. Alright, we wanted to keep isolated in our shell. And then Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, drew us into war, woken a sleeping giant. Alright, showed that one single event could have a big impact on public opinion. People who were like, I don't know if we go to war. Pearl Harbor was like, sign me up. Where do I sign up? Let's go to war. Alright, let's do this. And the U.S. used policies such as cash and carries, Lend-Lease to help the allies out, all aged short of war. Alright, Atlantic Charter basically says, hey, Churchill, let's be together against Hitler. Alright, and now I'll talk about the mobilization of the United States. Alright, starting in 1940, right, the government had increased military spending. And this is really going to help us get out of the Great Depression with this military spending, this buildup, this economic boost we had. Alright, leader was George C. Marshall. Yes, you'll find him later on, but the Marshall Plan. Alright. Following Pearl Harbor, the government expanded the draft. Many young men was like, you know what, I don't even need a draft. I'm going anyways. Alright, I'm so fired up. And, they're so disillusioned by the Depression that they're wanting to go do something, make something of themselves, and so they're going to sign up for the war and join it. World War II. These men and women who who fought in the war called the Greatest Generation. Alright? 16 million Americans who entered the armed forces. They just signed up left and right to help out America to defeat the axis of evil. Alright, so women and armed forces. Okay, women are actually going to help out. Now, they can't actually go into combat. They can do anything else. And so, 10,000 women joined the WWII. The women, except for volunteer service, the WWII's Navy program. Women did electrical work in the submarines and on the ships. Right? And 1,000 women joined Women Air Force in the WASPs. They tested and delivered aircraft. 150,000 women joined the Women's Army Corps in the WAC. And began the war known as WWII, worked with the Army, repaired equipment, and did other electrical work. So they're, working in the military and non-combat roles. So women played a very, very, very important role in World War II. Right? Tested aircraft, work on ships, and just helped out in any role but combat. Alright? In 1943, women were full-fledged members of the Army, and like I said, they had all the protection and benefits and served nearly all capacity except combat. They were led by Oveta Cope Hobby. Right? And here's old Rosie the Riveter. Alright, economic opportunities for women increased as women filled roles previously held by men. Men are going off to war. We need people working in factories. Okay, let's have women. Actually, African Americans and women went to work in the factories. Alright, and propaganda poster here. Rosie the Riveter, we can do it. We're just as strong as men are. We can do it. We can take care of the home front. And so many women went to work in the factories. And, they represented by Rosie the Riveter. Alright, so economic opportunities for women increased. They filled roles previously held by men. The U.S. built hundreds of new army bases, transformed many parts of the country, primarily the West and South. Florida had some, and just all over the country. Alright, California became home to more military bases than any other state. Why, you ask? Well, because it's on the West Coast. And the more military bases we have over there, the better chance we are to defending us if Japan decides to attack the West Coast, which was a real fear that we had, that Japan was going to attack the West Coast in California. Right? And so Florida, Texas, all these large military bases are going to be formed. Right? Many factories converted to wartime production supplies, just like in World War I. We're going all in. Okay, Ford's going to make, vehicles for the war. Everything that's usually produced stuff for, domestic goods are now going to be used for the war. Okay, we're all in this thing. All in. Every aspect of life. Total war. Now we'll talk about more of that in the home front lesson. Right, tens of billions of dollars spent in this weapons supplies, and these goals are going to be helped out by Henry Ford. Is going to help out all these other capitalists. Like I said, everybody was involved. Everybody's getting in this thing. All right, they're going to turn 5,500 vessels over the course of the war. All right, half of them Liberty ships. These are cookie cutter ships. Okay, they're all the same, and they're built mass-produced on the assembly line. Mass-produced these Liberty ships. Okay, Henry Kaiser. So several new agencies, such as the Office of Production Management and Government's War Production Board, were created to help out in the war effort. We're going total in, all in. All right. Here's a picture of the Liberty ship there. All right, government spending in World War II helped end the Great Depression and created millions of new jobs. Yes, the New Deal put a Band-Aid over the wound, but World War II helped heal that wound and ended the Great Depression. Economic boost we needed. All this spending during World War II got us out of the Great Depression. So weeks after the war began, Roosevelt created a National War Labor Board to help settle labor disputes. All right, we're going to do whatever it takes to help our men and women at war. Whatever it takes to help the Allies, whatever it takes to help win the war. Okay? The key issue to the war was the U.S. having to fight a two-front war. The European theater and the Pacific theater. That's going to be challenging. Alright, lesson review. Americans remained neutral at the beginning of the war until the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. They woke in a sleeping giant. The U.S. declares war one day later. The U.S. used policy of cash and carry, Lend-Lease Act, to all aid short of war. Atlantic Charter saying that Roosevelt and Churchill proclaimed their opposition to Hitler. And U.S. goes all in the war effort. Women became involved as well in non-combat roles. Alright, Rosie the Riveter was a symbolic figure for women working. Many new army bases were constructed